Hi, it's Vicky Howard here, and this I am hoping is going to be the start of a different type of video than what I've always done, and that is one really about being vulnerable and opening up. And so much so that I'm also showing you the crap that's in this room with the old, iron out, and there's just mess, and it's just me and my cup of tea. And But this is a room where I paint, it's where I come to work. I love the energy in here, and it's just a really peaceful place. And I've just come off a call. I have a call every 2 weeks with a friend of mine, Kate, and we both trained as essential emotion coaches together. And essential emotions coaching is all about releasing emotions and working through emotions using essential oils. So we come on a call together to really work through any issues that are really coming up. And it's really odd that we both arrive on the call having no idea what we're going to be talking about. But we end up having lived through the same type of experience during the week and realize we both have the same thing that we need to work through. And so today it was really about something that's been coming up a lot and keeps coming back round, and that is about being seen and being heard. And I realized that working through doing manifestation work that I had this thing that I didn't trust, and trust has been a big thing for me in my life through past relationships. And I realized that I wasn't trusting the universe. I wasn't trusting the universe to provide. So I wasn't trusting my capability of manifesting. So we got into about trust, and that this trust was also about that the universe, in fact, was not hearing my message. They weren't hearing me. So again, it was coming back to about being heard. And these journeys that they just take us when you start being honest with what's going on in your life and then talking about it, how it just brings up so many other layers. And it got on to about me when I was young, how um my father was quite overbearing, a very loving person, but also quite authoritarian. And I've always I wasn't allowed to be my absolute truth because I could have been shouted down. I couldn't really rebel against him. And that voice coming through was like, what have you got to say for yourself? And I realized that that kind of sentence is quite a bit of a trap, because you know that either you have to say nothing, which is what is preferred, or you have to say something and be shouted down for it. So that type of experience kind of had me in this dynamic of what I've got to say is not important. And it's not necessarily about my work or strong beliefs. It's about who I am as a person, that in a way I don't really matter, which is completely crazy because of what I want to do and the work that I love doing. That really matters. But it's kind of like, okay, the work matters, but what about me? Do I really matter? And about, really standing up for who you truly are and being totally authentic in your own needs and listening to your own voice in such a deep level. And when we work through these like emotions with Kate, we start looking at different oils, and we looked at cassia, and we looked at cinnamon, and then we got onto laurel leaf, and laurel leaf's all about um triumph, really, and overcoming your limiting beliefs and your fear of not being good enough, and really standing in your power and releasing all the self-sabotage. And it's really this all helps them understand that there's no security in staying small and unnoticed. And that unnoticed, I think that just kind of, and I'm just reading it now, and that's that word, I think that's it. It's not being noticed. And so often I've been on Zoom calls with people who will talk for a whole hour and I don't even get a word in edgeways. And obviously that's extreme. But it's also echoing back to me that these people take up the space that I'm not able to take verbally. And it's all right, writing blog, writing things on Facebook, writing it all out there, but speaking it is a whole different ball game. And actually being totally vulnerable and speaking that vulnerability out, it's a much harder thing. And it kind of also made me realize that I was also known as Madam Positive. And that kind of showed me that I never really dare speak about being angry or being, my deep, dark emotions. And um, that was prior to COVID. And then COVID came, and I think so many of us went through transformations. And then I realized that I had to let go of being mad and positive. Yes, my thoughts were always positive. I always see a positive light in every situation. And I look for where I want to go, not for where I don't want to go, and that kind of thing. But also being emotionally honest with myself as well, that I can't ignore negativity. Negativity is part of positivity, and we can't have one without the other. And that doesn't mean about focusing on negativity. It's just what's this negative thought coming up? What is it there for? And just allowing that to go through, but just seeing it there. And it's not really part of me. It's just part of old trauma and old fears, and just letting go of that. My natural state is positive. That's what I've always been since a young girl. And that's a good thing. That's quite weird saying that, isn't it? Madam Positive, that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, we were on a call for almost 2 hours talking through the emotions and the journey and what we go through. And I think we can sit there and ignore what we're truly feeling and believing that everything is fine and just putting a cover on it, or we can go deep and start being truly honest with what we're feeling, being vulnerable with ourselves. And it's only there that we really start digging into the depths. And I know people watching this video would say, well, why are you scared of not being noticed? And I guess it's what we portray out there and what we truly are can be two different things. Even if I'm tend to be authentic in who I am online, that feeling of being unnoticed um, goes unnoticed. See, that's really weird, isn't it? Your feeling of being unnoticed goes unnoticed, and that is really it. And I can certainly put myself out there work wise, but honest me wise, I do reveal a lot of me in my trainings, but online it's a different thing. And I don't think that means just splurting everything out there. It just means showing me as a human being, and that I'm me, Nikki, as a person, as Nikki also as the healer and artist. So it's really interesting when you start to look at how your childhood really affects you. And that doesn't mean that that is who you are. It just means that has become part of your armor that can be let go of, but it's not who you truly are as a soul. At soul level, I'm not some unnoticed, shriveled up being. I'm greatness. I'm love. I'm everything that there's the creator within me. But that human part of me that's had experience has made me take that greatness and put it in a cupboard because it needs to go unnoticed. And like I'm doing on this video as I'm talking through it, there are little synchronicities that happen within the words we say that makes us show just exactly what we're doing, that greatness needs to go unnoticed. That's exactly what has been happening because the fear of being shouted down, put down, that it's not right what I've just said. That's that sentence, you know. So what have you got to say for yourself? Isn't that just such an awful saying? What have you got to say for yourself? What, nothing? Load of crap? You know, it's that's the energy that gives off. That what have you got to say for yourself means absolutely nothing. So don't even go there because I'm just going to shout you down. And so that's what I thought has been a lot about trust, has also been about unnoticed. So it's time for me to be noticed, and time really for me to notice myself, to notice my own greatness, that it doesn't have to be shoved in a cupboard somewhere, that it can be allowed out, and that it needs to be noticed. I need to be out there being noticed as a human being, and that it's safe. It's safe to be noticed, that I'm not going to be shouted down. And if somebody says, what have you got to say for yourself? Well, it's time that I actually tell them what I do have to say for myself. It's and it's really funny just just looking at it all just now. Because when I smell laurel leaf, that first note, it kind of smells quite minty, quite spearminty. And Kate was feeling the same thing, that I said, but there's a really sickly undertone. And it was hitting right in the back of my throat. Now, the throat, obviously, the throat chakra about speaking my truth, speaking about who I am, speaking my authenticity, and being totally honest. And that's where it's working, that's kind of that surface level, everything's fine. That minty smell, yeah, everything's good. But the more I smell it, the more it's like, oh God, it gives you right in the back. And so, yeah, that kind of really kind of showed a lot. And the other one we looked at was cassia. Now, cassia is a part of cinnamon, and this one actually smells more like cinnamon than the cinnamon oil does. It smells a bit like oranges. But if we look at cassia, and I'm just going to say how this one made me feel, because I think it speaks so much on how an oil makes you feel, on smelling it, on how you're actually feeling in the emotion. So cassia is, yeah, self-assurance. Yeah, it's all about self-assurance, afraid to show their own brilliance. And so cassia, it feels very overpowering. It feels like this oil that's kind of looking down on me, like, how dare you speak up? Or I feel like I have to shrivel in its presence. And it's kind of that authoritarian feeling about it. And that's exactly what it brings up for me, this feeling of having to cower over something so much more powerful than me. But then, as always, that's what is on the outside is also on the inside. And so I'm having to that overpowering is, you know, it could be that actual greatness within me that I'm cowering to my own greatness. I daren't show it. You know, it's going unnoticed. I need to go down because that greatness is too big for me. And I think that's also the beauty of working with oils as well, because it's showing how it's actually feeling in a physical experience within me of what that's needed, what that's actually showing that's going on. So it's like carrying into your own greatness, but I need to really be standing up and being noticed for it, and being in that self. It's not about the self-confidence. It's trusting that you can stand up to your own greatness. That's what it's about. And I kind of want to share this story, not just about me being vulnerable about how I'm feeling, but also so that the people who are watching also know that we're all on this journey together. This actually bringing up tears from me. I don't know if you can see it or feel it, but to show that, you know, we're all on this journey together. We're all allowed to be vulnerable, and just to take that time just to look within yourself and just sit with that and be totally honest. We're allowed to be honest because we're all if we show ourselves as like these people with carrying suits of armor, we need to look under that armor. Who is that person that's carrying the armor around? That armor is not you. You know, that unnoticed, that cowering is not the true me, that true essence of me, that soul me. That's all the armor that I've been wearing, the trauma and the journey. And when I say trauma, trauma is not something big. It doesn't have to be, being attacked or raped or anything like that. Trauma is just something that is a bad experience that you found hard to deal with. That's it. It doesn't matter how small or how big. It just is. And so that armor is just that the trauma, it's just that the everything that isn't you, that hasn't been in alignment, is kind of stuck to you for protection. And it's almost like saying who you truly are, you need to protect it. But protecting it actually stops it from being who it truly is. So it's the ego self of trying to protect your true self. The ego comes from fear, it comes from pain. So it's automatic there to protect. And the ego too, for me, it's the physical, it's the head, it's the physical body. Whereas what's within inside the armor is the more etherical, the soul, the spirit. And that can then be seen. It's to let go of everything that's holding you back from showing your greatness, basically. So I just want to speak a little bit about that journey that I'm on, and that we can all start to show ourselves a little bit of vulnerability and honesty and authenticity, and to stop showing another face of the world and how we want the world to see us. The world, even if the way people see us is one way, but energetically and vibrationally, that is going to show up through your words, what you're actually showing out to the world, but what's actually happening in the world are two very different things. So I could be showing up in the world as somebody confident, as knowing what they're talking about. But at the same time, my vibration of not wanting to be noticed, that I almost don't deserve to be noticed, or I don't feel worthy of being noticed, that is a vibration that is being given out. So that is what is then coming back to me. I'm projecting this one thing, but what is being shown to me is something completely different. So within that is where we need to be honest. We can do all we want by putting everything that we want out there, that this is how I want to be in this persona, or this is how I need to show up, this is how I'm hiding behind my work, or whatever that is. But what we need to be looking at is this part, the one that is coming back, the reflection, because reflection is only reflecting what is deep within you that we're not actually able or wanting or admitting to see. And so when you start complaining about the world, or we start seeing where things are going wrong, we can either play victim to that and thinking, why is the world doing this to me? What's going on? What's happening? Why is this happening to me? But then we begin to realize as we grow that this is actually me. So we're actually being victim to our absolute own selves. That whole world is showing you back to you who you truly are at a vibrational level that we can't always see. And we are living in so many different worlds. Everybody is living their own world. Everybody's in their own corridor. And within that corridor, we have our own personal corridors that we're living through as well, through different choices. So everybody's seeing that world in a different way. That world has been reflected back to them in an extremely personal way. And it's time that we all stopped and think and feel and begin to realize that we're not victims of this world. This world is not happening to me, that everything that we're going through has nothing to do with the world. The world is just as it is. But what is being reflected back to you is who you truly are, what you're truly vibrating at. And it's never about what it is at surface level. It's never, people come to me about, for example, money problems. It's always such a huge thing for so many people. But that money problem is never about the money. It always shows up in so many different levels. And once we really begin to scratch the surface and go down, what is showing up in the money is also showing up in so many other ways as well. I could actually say to myself, well, money is not noticing me, or I'm not noticing the money that's around because I'm not being noticed. And where is that else that's showing up in my life? And then going deep in that, and why isn't the money noticing me? Well, maybe I don't feel I deserve to notice it. Maybe it's always being put away or whatever. But it's going down at deeper levels and seeing that what is being reflected back to you is only at surface level. It's only like in the physical sense, but we need to go down into that emotional sense and notice and verbalize and talk about what is actually happening so much deeper within ourselves and be vulnerable to ourselves. And it's by voicing it, by talking it out to somebody else, that healing then starts. That it's like revealing this hidden bag. It's like going into your attic and taking out all these boxes, finally unpacking them and seeing all the crap within them and saying, okay, do I really need this? Do I want this? Is this mine? Well, this box, this is what it's what I had when I was little, but it doesn't mean anything to me now anymore. Let's get rid of it. And that's what this journey is about, is looking and saying, this is not really part of me. It's something that happened to me when I was younger, but it's not part of my life now. It doesn't serve me. It's time to release it. And obviously the way I release it is through motion code or through the oils and through painting. And we all have our own ways of doing that. But the first step is always verbalizing it, getting out, because when we verbalize it, we admit it, it becomes clearer, and then we can take it further and know how we want to deal with it after. So I just wanted to really, talk about that because that was such a strong morning. And I just want to really start talking about the journey that I'm going on, because I think it can also help other people on kind of seeing behind the scenes on how I deal with stuff, what my journey is. And so hopefully through that, you'll find your way through your journey as well. So with my cup of tea, it's now almost time for me to go and have some lunch. So I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And thank you so much for listening and listening without judgment as well. I really, if people want to criticize me for what I've just said, that's fine. You can do, because that is your journey. I'm not going to take that personally. It's just, it is what it is. So have a fantastic weekend wherever you are, and blessings to you all.